to the Red Ride podcast. My name is Peter.
My name is Dan.
This takes us to look at the progression of the sin of Edom. Obadiah describes their action as a slow, disturbing progression. First, they gaze, they look on the ruins with satisfaction. That's what was happening. They didn't get involved, and they were feasting their eyes on the damage. And then the mouth was the next thing. They opened their mouth. First is seeing and then opening their mouth. They mocked and boasted. The Hebrew phrase uses, the use of the Hebrew phrase here suggests making the mouth great. That's what boasting means.
That's such an interesting description of the word boast.
Yeah.
Or like what it means.
Literally,
to make the mouth great.
Yeah. I mean, when I first heard it, I was like, what does that even mean? But the idea is that someone who makes the mouth great. Think of when you go to you go to you back at school. Okay, back at school, gala competition, the three houses.
Yes.
And then the one house wins. You know, do they all just sit there and politely be like, yeah, no.
They showboat that thing in your face.
They make their mouth great.
Yeah.
It's a way of claiming total victory over someone who is already broken. Right.
I know, shame. If they say about it like that, I remember when I was in the houses and we won, you're like, they've already lost. Now you're just rubbing salt in the wound.
Literally, yeah.
It's a bit rough.
And that's what and I mean, if you think about it, Edom didn't fight any battle, but they're like boasting.
Yeah.
You know. And then the problem with it is that when you are making a boast in those days to a nation and mocking the nation, some of the mocks would be, as you would probably read in the Psalms, like David sometimes complains to God and says, don't let this happen to me, because the people will say, where is their God?
Yes.
And it's basically was a mocking. They're like, oh, your God wasn't strong enough to...
Our God was stronger because we beat you.
Absolutely. And so by them doing that, opening their mouth wide, they would be challenging God, mocking God. You know, they were like, yeah, the God of Israel isn't strong enough. And so they were mocking God. And so that's the progression. That's scary. And then the next one is the intrusion, because they entered Jerusalem unauthorized, not to help, but to stare and enjoy the destruction, and to loot. So they come and take what little remained, because Babylon would have taken it, would have taken people captive, would have taken stuff, and then there would have been leftovers. So they would have come in scavenging. I think like who scavenges? Like hyenas, eh?
Yeah, hyenas, vultures, those types of animals.
After the damage is done, you know, they come and just like take the leftovers.
That's ludicrous. Yeah. You know, one thing to boast about a war you didn't win.
Yeah.
Next, you go and scavenge the remains of whatever valuables have been left by the armies of Babylon.
Yeah.
I think to myself, you've crossed several lines to be in the position you're in now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the theme of pride that we'll explore in Obadiah, you know. And I think another example would be, imagine being completely vulnerable after losing everything, and the one person who should help you takes the last thing you have simply because they can. That is Edom.
Yeah.
That is what Edom did. And it's scary, because Edom is Israel's brother.
Yeah.
So that was not all they did. There was another, they went even further. What they would do is that they positioned themselves at the crossroads, and which were the escape routes in some ways, because in the context of the children of Israel running away from who would have who maybe managed to escape Babylonian invasion. So they're running for their lives, and they would reach this crossroads, and Edom knew these roads very well. So they would be waiting, and when the people of Israel arrived there, maybe because you arrived there, you're like, do I go left, do I go right? Well, they're in that probably moment of decision, they pounce on them, and they capture them, kill them, or hand them over to the Babylonians.
These brothers, honestly, I don't wonder God intervened. They like, it is very intense.
Yeah.
I think the actions that they took against Israel and the people, that they would even stoop to that level where they're the ones, any last thought of freedom just gets burnt into flames as you get ambushed by the Edomites and get either killed, as you said, or handed over to the Babylonians.
Yeah.
It's definitely not something they were expecting, I would assume. And it just seems so low, like the level that Edom went to in order to see Israel be hurt or damaged or put into exile. Yeah. It's quite something. Like looking at it, just the 21 verses, you go through it relatively quickly. Yeah. You don't realize the significance of living in that moment, being an Israelite, managing to just escape with your life from Babylon or the invasion. And maybe with a group of others, you get to this point of, do we go left? Do we go right? And as you're making that decision, you just see an army almost, or a group of Edomites come against you. And you've got them in front of you, the Babylonians behind you, and you've now got nowhere to go. Yeah. And all that hope just vanishes.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like horror story vibes, eh? And, even then I was thinking about it now as you were mentioning, we could go to the other, we can see the danger of indifference, because from indifference, suddenly they start doing other things which they never probably thought they would do. Yeah. But it all starts with being indifferent.
Yes.
And I think of even us today, sometimes, have you ever been in that situation where, I know I've been guilty of it, where maybe you've asked someone, because this is again the context of discipline, and of the people of Israel experiencing discipline, and someone comes to you for counsel and you tell them don't do this, and they don't do what you've counseled them to do, and you know what's going to happen to them, and then you just sit by and you watch, and then when it happens,
you come and say, I told you so.
Not only do you say I told you so, but you don't even interfere to help. You just like, in some way, there's like a smirk. I've been vindicated.
Yes, I was right.
I was right, Now they're gonna have to feel it, And it's weird because sometimes we just feel that element of pleasure of being like, you see, I was
right. Or pride.
Right.
Yeah.
I was
right. You should have listened to me.
Yeah. So there's an Edom in us.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think it's scary how quickly we can draw parallels to our lives and situations like that, where we move from this idea of indifference to this idea of scavenging your life or a person's life to prove our right.
Yes.
Or to prove, and it doesn't take place exactly how. You're not going to go to a ruined city today and scavenge the leftover gold trinkets or necklaces or whatever. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. But you'll go into a person's life metaphorically and scavenge the feelings of being proved right or being made to look better, holier, whatever.
Yeah, you in a sense taunt them. You make your mouth great by using words that are meant to sting and harm.
And even I would go as far as to say, maybe you don't say it to them,
Yeah.
but you think it.
Yes.
And God knows the thoughts of man.
Yeah.
They are not hidden from him.
Yeah.
And you thinking it is just as bad as it being spoken aloud, because God judges the heart, not the... he doesn't look at the outward appearance, he looks at the heart.
Yeah.
And I think when we say you, we are definitely including myself and Pete in that,
Yeah.
because we've been there.
Yeah.
And I think it's a moment to recognize, when have I done that?
Yeah.
When will I do it?
Yeah.
And will I honor God or honor myself in those moments when it happens again? When I'm at that crossroads,
Yeah.
do I offer aid, or do I turn my back and watch you suffer?
Yeah. It's quite sobering. But we're here to see how God responds to that kind of behavior. And
I don't want to know. I can imagine it's scary how he responds to that type of behavior.
yeah, well, let's
Yeah.
let's keep going and let's see. And so this book, as we look at it, you'll see that God will start speaking, and the tone of the speech feels like a courtroom. God is speaking as judge and as king. We'll look at it more as we get into the verses, but the message is clear here in Obadiah. What you have done to Israel, to the people of Judah, will be done to you. The punishment will reflect the crime. That is basically what it is. And it was one of those laws, I think, what was the law? Eye for eye, tooth for tooth.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think, oh, that's a bad law, but it's the idea is justice. The punishment must fit the crime. So that's what Obadiah will tell Edom, and will tell the people of Israel what will happen to Edom. So, how does Obadiah fit into the bigger story of the Bible? Because Obadiah is not just one isolated book. It is part of 66 books in the Bible. So the question is, how do we get to this point in Obadiah?
Yeah.
So from the beginning, God intended creation to be good and whole. You read Genesis 1 and 2, it's a beautiful picture of God creating order, and this creation is just wonderful. Human sin disrupted that, but God did not abandon his world when sin came into the picture. He chose Israel as a way to bring restoration. The story of God picking a family starts in Genesis 12. So he wants that from one nation, everyone will receive his blessing. But God starts first by blessing one nation, and that's Israel. Israel was meant to be blessed so that they could bless others. But when Israel failed to live in God's blessing, Babylon was used to discipline Israel. God did not ordain that Israel be destroyed. He wanted Israel to be disciplined, because the idea of discipline is to lead to repentance and healing. So, Edom, however, opposed that purpose, because guess what? Edom wants Israel completely
Destroyed.
annihilated.
Yeah, out of here.
Exactly. But if you look at behind the scenes, the spiritual forces working behind the scenes, what is their aim? Is to stop God's purpose of the whole world being blessed through
Israel. Yes.
So they're opposing God. So Edom, whether they know it or not, they are fighting against God and God's purposes. And that is why Edom's future looks different.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they're not just coming against a nation, they're coming against the God of the nation, a God who has a plan for this world. So what we see here is that even in the midst of judgment, Obadiah still uses God's personal name, Yahweh. which is a comforting thing for the people of Israel, because it is a reminder to the people of Israel that God has not forgotten his people. But it is also a statement to the nation, that to all the nations around, that God is the protector of Israel.
Sure.
So that's important. So when you're reading Obadiah, always have that in mind, that God's intention is to bless the people of Israel. So now they're in exile. How are they going? How is God still going to bless the nations?
That's interesting. Yeah.
How is that going to happen, And Obadiah unfolds it, and he says that Israel will possess again.
Sure.
So there's a restoration coming,
There's a sense of hope.
Exactly.
For the future.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And that God, in some ways, like you mentioned, was a highlight for you, was another theme which we didn't mention actually, which is worth mentioning, is that the sovereignty of God is highlighted here. Yeah.
Yeah. I always love hearing about God's sovereignty whenever we read scriptures, just because you think how much a lack of control humans possess. And it's because we're human, right? We can't control natural forces. We can't even really control what our pet is going to do. We can try and train them to sit and jump and run and whatever, but they have a mind of their own. They're going to do it. But God's sovereignty is, I suppose, this understanding that despite the situations that I might see in front of me, God's purposes will still move forward, and ultimately his kingdom will advance. Whether it looked like how I want it to look or not is a different story.
Yeah.
But God remains in control. So in the moments of exile, Israel still called to be a blessing, to bless others. And I guess we begin to see how Obadiah caused the people of Israel to look forward to that it might not be this day, but a day will come when they will again possess the land.
Yeah.
Messiah will still come through them to bless the nations. And we see all of these things. And I suppose it's the maturity of the adults in that community to recognize it might not be in my lifetime, but I'm amongst a people that blessing will come through to others.
Yeah.
And how do I steward this moment to teach my kids that story so that they would teach their kids? And eventually we will see a group of people who are submitted and surrendered to the Father to see that.
Yeah. In fact, I was thinking of Ephesians, where it says that it's through the wisdom of God, it's through the church that the wisdom of God is made plain. And it's amazing how through the people of God, God intends on blessing the whole world.
Yeah.
And it starts with Jesus. That's why Obadiah points forward to Jesus, because the last statement of Obadiah, and it's probably paraphrased, is that the kingdom will belong to the Lord. And that points us forward to Jesus, because through the death and resurrection of Jesus, Jesus opened a way for people from every nation to belong to God. And God is building a kingdom. And Jesus, when he appeared on planet Earth, he said that the kingdom of heaven is here.
Yes.
At hand. If that means it's within your reach. So Jesus was proclaiming a kingdom, and his death and resurrection, through his death and resurrection, what does he say at the end? All power and authority has been given to me. And that is what we're looking forward to. I mean, Jesus is delaying his return. He came first. He proclaimed the year of the Lord's favor, but there is a day of vengeance coming, which is our hope. Our hope is that there is the day of the Lord, and that's what Obadiah is pointing us toward: a day where the Lord will administer complete justice. Right now, justice and mercy meet. They met at the cross of Jesus. And Obadiah is a warning to us, but it is also an invitation. Because of Jesus, no one has to be treated only according to their sin. How's that?
Yeah.
Grace is available. Restoration is possible. So because of Jesus, God will not treat you as your sin deserves if you come to him
Yeah.
in faith and in repentance. But if you don't, the book reminds us that ignoring that grace has consequences. God cares deeply about justice, compassion, and how we treat others in their most vulnerable moments. So even though Obadiah may be short, but it's asking some big questions about pride, loyalty, and what kind of people we choose to be when no one forces us to care.
Sure. Wow. Let's get into this, I think.